To the fastness, the Lawrence County Republican Party. My name is Brandon Taylor. I am the Lawrence County Republican Party Chairman. I have across the table from me Mr. Lawrence Sutton, the Lawrence County Republican Party Secretary, and our very own Lawrence County Executive, who is also a Republican, thankfully, David Morgan.
Yes, sir.
So, welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, awesome. Yeah, thank goodness we wouldn't have him in here if it wasn't the case.
No, we wouldn't be able to stand it if you
Well, yeah, if I wasn't a Republican, I wouldn't have got elected in Lawrence County, I don't think.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Hey, you guys, this is a fast-moving hour, but David, you have any updates? You're coming in right off the street, rolled in here, and
Man, a lot of good stuff happening in Lawrence County. I was just telling my in-laws over in Manchester, I was telling them that it's a great time to be in Lawrence County, to live in Lawrence County, to live in southern Middle Tennessee. I mean, it's just a great time. So, yeah, a lot of great stuff happening in the county, man. I could go on and on and on, but I guess one of the best things that's happened is I got my first budget passed, which is good.
Okay.
You know, and we had a unanimous vote on that, and we didn't have to raise taxes, praise God, because I'm not planning on ever doing that. And,
amen.
Boy, I like the sound of that one.
and we were able to give our
Best
first
preaching you've done since Sunday.
I heard
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We were able to give our first responders, raises this year too. So from our emergency service, our ambulance service, our sheriff's department, we were able to look at maybe the deficiencies in recruiting numbers for the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to increase the pay raises there. So, and countywide, we were able to give raises this year based on our budget surplus. So we're in a good place, and in our new budget, didn't have to tap into surplus hardly at all. And one of the things I've learned in this position, typically you under budget on revenue, you under project on revenue, because usually there's always more sales tax revenue and things like that you end up trickling in.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So the status of Lawrence County as of right now,
It's
we're
good.
strong.
Yeah, we are. We're intending to add to our budget surplus this year, and so we're in a good place. I'm building a strategic plan for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years for Lawrence County in conjunction with the school system, and so that's the plan for us. And
Right.
currently talking to some different consulting firms to help us.
Well, I can tell you, just from my point of view, I love living in Lawrence County. If I didn't, I'd move. I lived in a different county, and I moved to Lawrence County.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that we have a Republican county executive. We have a Republican sheriff. Our county commissioners, I'm thankful for those conservatives on that county commission. This is a good place to live, and I'm thankful to be here. We appreciate what you've been doing. I know we talked to you several times. You come to a lot of the Republican Party meetings, the ones you can be there. We appreciate that. I want to say that up front. We appreciate you being there. All the conservatives that are coming in elected positions, we appreciate you being there. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the citizens of this county as well. Excuse me.
Well, I tell you what, when I called you here the other week about getting you on, one of the things that, and I've gotten to know you over the last year or so, and what impressed me the most and why I wanted to get you on is when we were at our last Republican meeting. You're there on the front row, and we're talking about who's going to the Capitol with us if we're going to have the special session. And there was about 30 hands that were raised in that meeting that we're dedicated. We're going to the Capitol for the special session. And I noticed, because I'm in the back and I'm looking out at the crowd, yours was one of the first hands that went up.
Yeah, man, most definitely. I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, it would be since we are having a special session, it's something I'm not going to miss. I think Tennesseans need to show up because we know that there are going to be people bust in from other states that come in here and protest and do all kind of things and make their voice heard. So we've got to make our voice heard, man. I didn't get in this arena, the political arena, to sit back on the sideline. That's for sure.
Well, and you haven't. You have had to take the bull by the horns from the very beginning, and not without its controversy. But I'm going to tell you something. I've liked how you've handled the controversy. You've handled it like a true man would. You've stood up to it. You didn't back down, and you weren't afraid to voice what your opinion is. And so many of our politicians today, if they get caught with any kind of resistance at all, the first thing they want to do is run from it. And you didn't run from it.
Well, I can see the temptation there for politicians to try to avoid conflict, especially with all the different platforms that people have today to voice their opinions. But man, I'm one of 6 children. I'm the baby of 5 boys.
You're used to conflict.
Listen, if I didn't learn how to fight and stand up for myself when I was a little kid, listen, I wouldn't have made it. I'm just going to tell you right now. I mean, I wouldn't have had anything to eat. I wouldn't have been able to get a piece of chicken off the table. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
They would have starved him to death way back there.
Listen, you got 4 big brothers. You got to
Yeah.
figure it out. So yeah, it's resolve and determination. I don't like having issues with people. I prefer not to. But at the end of the day, we all are entitled to our opinion, and I respect people's opinions, whether I agree with it or not. I respect their right to have an opinion. That's what makes America so great. And
Right.
the left is trying to shut down free speech right now, y'all.
Yep.
I mean, that's really what's going on, and
That's one of the reasons we're on this show right now,
that's right.
taking advantage of that freedom.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to shut it down. Right now, President Trump has been indicted, and all that's going on with him because he simply voiced his opinion and used his voice in a free speech setting.
Yeah.
He's being demonized.
Yeah.
Oh, he's being demonized for his own opinion. And President Trump, there's some things that I don't disagree with him either, or I disagree with him. But I'm going to tell you something. He's standing up and he's taking the fight to them.
Well, he's certainly not one to shrink back from an argument.
No.
Or create one, or
Right.
or stir up a little controversy. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, politics, we read the definition of politics on this show a couple of times, and it's the ability to go in and deal with the conflict.
Yep.
It's and debate and handle the conflict. It's not to go in and compromise. In politics, there's no word compromise in politics.
No, and that's what we're dealing with right now. That's the reason we have this special session going on with Bill Lee, because for whatever reason he's compromising. He's either compromising his values. I'll let you pick, Bill Lee. You're either compromising your values or this is who you are. One or the other. I mean, there is no middle ground.
Yeah, I read of course, the post that you sent me yesterday.
Sure.
The proclamation of the special session, and I will say there's 18 bullet points in there, and number 12 is the one to be most concerned about, I think, and then number 11 could very well be
Exactly.
could very well give a little more teeth to a civil lawsuit or something like that when it comes to the state wants to have a recommended like gun storage and handling policy that would not have criminal implications to it if
Sure.
people didn't follow it. But say you're kind of negligent with where you put your gun or whatever, and somebody gets a hold of that and kills someone, God forbid. Then with the state having something in place,
Right.
there could be some kind of.
But see what would be
Just
considered.
for a little back, let me throw this in real quick before we get too far into this. The governor, for those that are listening and may not know, maybe been busy last day or so, the governor has issued a state of Tennessee proclamation by the governor, and he is calling a special session, and it looks like it's going to convene late in the evening of August the 21st. That's what we're looking at, and so the 22nd is probably when this thing's going to get kicked off.
Right.
And you mentioned number 12, number 11, and number 12, and I'll just read these. There's 18 different bullet points on this. And number 11 says they want to consider measures encouraging the safe storage of firearms, which do not include the creation of penalties for failing to safely store firearms. So that's number 11. So encouraging measures for safe storage of firearms. What that sounds like to me, now I'm reading this surface value, is if someone were to steal your firearm, or take your firearm without asking, okay? So you've stored it somewhere, maybe it's in your house, maybe it's in your car, and a crime be committed, okay, maybe the state's not going to hold you accountable, but could that go to civil trial and somebody sue you because a gun was used against one of their family members that somebody stole from you?
Right.
That looks like the angle, and I'll read number 12 as well because you mentioned number 12. Number 12 says temporary mental health orders of protection, which must be initiated by law enforcement, must require a due process hearing, must require the respondent to undergo an assessment for suicidal or homicidal ideation, must require law enforcement to prove its case by clear and convincing evidence, and must require that an order of protection be reevaluated at least every 180 days and must not permit other orders. Okay, so it goes into some details there, but basically what we're talking about is red flag laws.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And it says every 180 days, what, until perpetuity? I mean,
Yes.
does that go on forever?
Well, it doesn't say. So
Well,
it gets
and
kind
that's
of
the
vague.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's what happens when you open up with these vague laws.
Sure.
You're doing the vague laws on purpose in order to go back later on to try to fix it.
Sure.
Politicians, no offense, David.
I'm not a politician. I'm just
okay.
county executive.
Okay, but your politicians is the only people I know that will create their own problems and then go out and try to fix them.
Sure. Sure.
And this is an example of creating your own problems because, okay, so who gets to decide if you were negligent with your firearm? What happens if you have a safe by your bed? You know, the finger safes that you can put your hands in and you can get your gun out real quick. Okay, but how easy is one of those things to take and to break into later on? Is somebody going to be held criminally negligent for
Sure.
that?
Sure.
Because they took it, or somebody has a small safe, 16 gun safe. I mean, all you need is a little dolly, and you can haul off that safe to
Sure.
somewhere else
So
in
that's
order to
happened.
break into it.
That's happened with people before.
That's
I know people
correct.
that's actually had that happen.
Yeah.
That's
So-
correct.
And so we're getting into some areas where this was initially started off as was going to be for health or mental health.
Right.
And so that was where
It
it
has
initialized,
nothing to
and
do
it's
with it.
strayed very far away from mental health. I mean, as far as someone stealing your firearm, it has nothing to do with mental health at all.
Well, the majority of these points, I mean, several of them have to do, with mental health, and then some of them have to do with school safety plans and problems. Some of them have to do with the fact that, like, juvenile records are not shared with,
Sure.
criminal courts,
Right,
right?
right.
So that's an issue. And I think, going back to the shooting in Nashville, the manifesto was, 100 and something pages?
212 pages.
212 pages long, okay. So
That's what we've been told, but we haven't seen it.
Right, we haven't seen it yet. It needs to be printed out. But I'm assuming that there's a lot of times these young people will turn 18, 19, 20. They'll commit these ridiculous crimes.
Sure.
And maybe there could have been some warning signs had their juvenile record maybe been available at different times. I don't know. And he's talking about from 16 and 17 years old to be able to try those offenders in criminal court with the same appellate rights and all that for. It says transfer of juvenile defendants age 16 and older to courts with criminal jurisdiction. So maybe looking at if the crime constitutes a criminal, violation, then, here's the deal: if a 16-year-old can drive a car and work a job, I mean, heck, just a few generations ago they were going to war in World War II. You know
Right.
what I mean?
That's correct. That's correct.
So I don't know. I see some things, and even 11, and I'll just speak to this, and I'm not Governor Lee's defender in any form or fashion. He's made his bet on this deal, but I do know that leading sometimes is difficult. It's a difficult seat to sit in. You trying to figure things out, and I think it's fair what you said earlier. He can answer the question himself.
That's right. That's right.
But measures encouraging safe storage for firearms, it's the state making a statement. This is what you need to do to keep your firearms safe. Have they ever done that in an official capacity? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As long as, of course, we take it, being who I am, I'm like, yep, here we go.
Right.
This is the first inch they're going to try
That's
to take.
correct.
But
Yeah, that's how I look
You
at
can't
it.
get a mile until you go an inch,
Well, you don't punish the victim of a crime. Okay?
Right.
If somebody steals from you, you don't punish. If we do this with firearms, are we going to do it with vehicles? Well, somebody stole your truck and then they went down the street and had a head-on collision with a family and killed a
Right,
family.
right.
Well, they stole your vehicle. You didn't have the club on the steering wheel, the boot on the tire, or you didn't have
Yeah.
a Python alarm system on it. I mean,
Well, if you
look,
took your baseball
it's-
bat or you took your knife.
This is
Yeah.
absolutely a reach for our Second Amendment rights, my opinion. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean I'll stand on it as my opinion. Some people could disagree with me if they want to, because people can be wrong, and it's not against the law
okay.
to be wrong, but really, I mean, it's just an
Unfortunately.
affront on our rights. I mean, how could you say anything?
We are expert at our own opinions.
Where
believe
in
me.
history has it been to where the victim would be at fault if they're at fault in a
Yeah,
crime? I mean, if
yeah.
I steal something from you,
Rape and then aborting the baby.
okay, I understand. Good point. Well said. Well said.
Well, and you look at number 12. Now, what does it say? It just says temporary mental health orders of protection. Okay, so what does that mean? That's not saying. It's not saying like if you have a temporary mental health order of protection, then you're not going to be allowed to purchase a gun, right? It doesn't say that in this, but they are going somewhere with this. But I will say, even in that particular thing, if you look, there's 6 qualifiers for that, right? I mean, there's literally 6 hurdles you have to get through before you can get a temporary mental health order of protection. What does that mean? What is the consequence? Like if somebody was slapped, if they went through these 6 litmus tests and got this temporary mental health order of protection, what does that mean at that?
I'm going to tell you what it means. It should mean already, if you have that, then why do you even have to mention guns? If they've gone through those 6 steps right there, they should be incapacitated anyway and under.
Well, it's not saying anything about guns.
Well,
in there, so that's what I'm saying. It's not saying anything about, okay, if they have
vague.
a temporary mental health.
Yeah, it's vague.
Right. So here's what I think is going to happen. I trust our legislators, right? For the majority of our legislators, I trust.
I trust our guys that we have. I trust Kip.
I think they will. I think this is fairly vague. I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of just throwing some stuff out there.
Yep.
And now let's see what happens when it hits the table. You know what I mean? And see what they produce of it. I think Governor Lee felt like he had to do something after that tragedy. And that's just saying now, I don't know if I would have done that or certainly,
Right.
yeah. But, and I think having this conversation about mental health stuff is ultimately at the end of the day, I believe Tennesseans are going to make the right choices. Our leadership's going to make the right choices.
The mental health is important, but it's the fact that you're using the guns because, let me ask you this, I mean, because we don't have the manifesto, because nobody's saying anything, but I look at all these points that they're making, and I don't know if any of those would have kept that tragedy from happening. I can tell you what would have kept the tragedy from happening, and that's not to have gun-free zones. If you do not have gun-free zones, these things do not happen. If you had somebody armed, security right there, then that would have stopped it. But any of these lists that they're making here, that how is that going to stop? How would that have stopped her from doing that?
Even if you couldn't even buy a gun legally in the state of Tennessee,
it's so easy to
and
go
you're
buy
mentally
one.
ill,
Yep.
and you're going to do something as horrific as what she did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you're going to find the gun. I mean, just look at Chicago and D.C. and look everywhere else. There's gun-free zones. They have the highest murder rates and gun.
Or
crimes
you'll
in the
find
country.
something else. I mean, you can kill as many people, if not more people, with a car than you could a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, all you got to do is go down a busy street with people walking around. And
So we've got to go the direction of what works and what doesn't work. So, passing another gun legislation, all it does is limit the law-abiding citizens. It affects the law-abiding citizens that are exercising their rights and their freedoms, and it doesn't come back and it doesn't benefit us because the outlaws are still going to be outlaws. Okay?
Outlaws are still going to be outlaws, and from my understanding, we have 11,000 gun laws on the books today. Why can't we enforce the 11,000 that we have now? Or why don't we do this? Why don't we just go with one? And that's called the Second Amendment. But no, we have 11,000 different laws right now for guns.
Sure.
And the criminals are still finding a way.
Yeah, they're going to, man. I mean, I remember I was at the Capitol I was the minister of the day. I told you this story, I think.
Yeah, but tell the story online. This is fun.
Yeah, my kids were all there with me. This was pretty cool. So we were in D.C. The Lawrence County crew was in D.C., and I had to fly out at like 6:30 that morning. And at D.C., I'd had the privilege of praying in the Capitol building there, in the House of, in the Congress room there. It's fleeting my mind just for a moment. But anyway, I get home, I get to Tennessee, and my wife picks me up from the airport with all the kids. They took out of school that day because I got to be the minister of the day on the Senate floor. We're all dressed up and all that. I got, and we're just standing at the door of the House chamber, and I'm showing my kids, the House chamber. You can't go in there, the sergeant of arms. It was real contentious at that time. There was people there protesting and spitting and yelling and just being normal liberals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we shouldn't think that we should have pity on them, and it's not really because they're just normal liberals, and acting that way. And that's more from the.
I can tell you where sympathy sits in the dictionary, but I'm not.
Anyway, I said this one lady came up to me. She's like, "Y'all need to pass some gun legislation in here." She was real haughty with me, and my kids are
Sounds like
standing
a
right
transgender lady.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't check it. Oh Lord, I'm on the radio. All right, so I just said, "Well, ma'am, you will." I said, "You'll be blessed to know we have." And her whole countenance changed. She says, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, it's called the Second Amendment in the Constitution of the United States, the right to bear arms." I said, "It's the only one we need." And man, she just
Turned into a demon creature.
Oh, just huffed and puffed, and if my kids weren't there, I would have got cussed out. There is no doubt, or she would have spat in my face or something. But my little kids were there, and she just.
Well, thank
stormed
gosh
off.
she had the decorum to not to take it a step further.
Yeah, she
I
at
mean,
least had the decency to not do that.
Well, and I need to throw this in while we're going. First off, if you're watching this video and you've not subscribed to WDXE, right now just click on that subscribe button. This is what we're getting conservative talk out. If you like this show, if you know a liberal, just go ahead and forward them the video and wish them a Merry Christmas. It's early Christmas, so I know that's terrible, isn't it? But yeah, we need you to subscribe. If you want to make a comment, go on there and make a comment as well. Sometimes we respond to some of those comments. We like to see folks' comments on those videos. And also, our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, August 15th at the Lawrence County Courthouse. And so if you want to be talking more about the special session, we're actually going to be having the meeting concerning our actual trip to the state capitol. We're going to be there. We're going to be on site at the state capitol. I know we've got several. I don't know for sure how many, but I'd like to see as many as 50 to 75 people gather together, and let's go to the state capitol and let's be there while we can watch the legislation taking place on the floor. That's what I would like to be a part of.
well, we need to be there, and I know Lawrence County. We showed up a couple of years ago when we made Lawrence County a sanctuary county for the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, this is a lot more important than that, and we had over 250 people show up at that meeting.
Yeah.
So we need more. Matter of fact, I mean, we had 200 people show up for codes and violations, David
Man,
Morgan.
I know how to pack a room. I'm just
You
gonna
do
tell
know
you
how to
right
pack a
now.
room,
I know
don't you?
how to do it.
So you know what? If you don't show up for that, David Morgan will be there at it, and we'll talk about codes and variances at that meeting.
Yeah,
we will not.
Bring your bring your tomatoes and leftover cabbage heads, and you can chunk them in there.
Here's the thing. I hear people say all the time when it comes to firearms, and we can move on to another topic, but I hear people say all the time on firearms, you know what? I'll never let them come take mine. I'll stand up. I will never let it happen. Pride out of my cold dead hand. That was the old Charlton
Pride
Heston
out of my
statement,
cold dead
the NRA. Pride out of my cold dead hand. You know what? I'm going to call it on this one. If you won't go to the Capitol, they ain't going to have to pry it out of your hand.
No, because you're
just
going
gonna
to give
hand
it to them.
And all you are is just talk if you don't show up. We are the generation where people are hiding behind Facebook. They're hiding behind the social media, which is not freedom of speech. These places are terrible places to get on board with anyways. I hate Facebook. I'm just going to go ahead and say it out loud.
I don't have
a
any
Facebook
social
account.
media.
You can go on there and trash me all day long.
I don't
care. Might as well just write it on a bathroom wall. I don't care. And so here's the thing that I want to stress. If you are one of these and you go around saying all the time, pride out of my cold dead hand, just quit saying it, because if you will hand it over to them and not show up, and how is this going to look? We don't know, but we want to get in there and we want to take the place. I don't want to see these people bust in, sitting in our seats. These seats in that state capitol belong to the citizens of this state, and we have to go there. I'm not going there to protest. I'm not going there to hold a sign. I'm not going there to yell in a bullhorn. I'm not yet going there to argue with a protester. I don't have any interest in that. I want to get in the door. I want to get in a seat. I want to be there, and I want to see people that I know, my friends and family, my neighbors, our county executive. You say you want to go. I'm telling you, this is huge to me. Mm-hmm. No matter what happens, I want us to be present. And I said at our last meeting, if there's a reason why you're afraid to go to our state capitol, as a man, in my opinion, that ought to tell you need to go.
Well, and I'm going to tell you another thing, about David. We're talking about, hey, he's one of the first hands to go up. But, you contacted me a couple of months ago and asked to get some help for getting you a resolution to send to Bill Lee. Why don't you tell the people of Lawrence County what you and the county commissioners did with that?
Well, it was when the first talk of the special session came up, and of course, I'm thankful to be in Tennessee because everybody began to blow the whistle on the potential detriment of this type of special session. So I thought, well, what better thing to do from Lawrence County is to make a statement from our commission, our elected officials in Lawrence County, to say, you know what, it doesn't matter what the state does as far as red flag laws are concerned, if and when that ever even tries to get passed.
Yep.
But as long as we're in Lawrence County, and as far as I want Governor Lee to know and everyone else that's at the state legislature, I want I want them to know that Lawrence County is not going to be for red flag laws, period. And so we put a resolution in place to say no matter what the state passes, we will not abide by those laws in Lawrence County. So.
And I tell you what, it was so well written that Richard Archie, who's one of the key leaders of the Tennessee Firearms Association, he wanted a copy of that.
Good deal. Yeah, it was written better than I can speak to right now. I don't remember all the whereases.
If
and
Richard Archie
Right.
calls you a conservative, you're a conservative.
Good deal.
Well, I mean, but Richard Archie
He's a
was
friend
very,
of ours, and
he was very
shout
impressed
out to
with
Richard
it.
Archie, Tennessee Firearms Association. If
He
you
was-
haven't
That's who
looked
we
them
are.
up,
That's
go
who
look
we
at
are in Lawrence County, and I'm not ashamed of that. That's who we are. I'm proud of that, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
And I want the governor and everyone else to know that's where we stand.
them. That is awesome.
Yeah, it is. I tell you another thing I want to talk about because of how people don't realize a lot of things, what all you are doing and involved in. You know, not only you're a county executive, which is a full-time job. I mean, it's more than a full-time job. You're also leader of your church. You have your hands in so many different things. You're a business owner. You have done construction. But one of the things that I've learned here lately has been your involvement with 8 Oaks Recovery and how you started it, did you not?
Yeah, and I'll give credit to God first of all for that. He dropped that in my spirit, just in my times of prayer. My first year as a pastor here in Lawrenceburg. My dad had a stroke in 2012 in December, and the poor church had to put up with me to become their next pastor, right? And so I was interim for about 4 months, and they voted me in, and so. The first year that I was the pastor of our church, I told them I want to give money away to other entities that we trust and raise money for missionaries, and I want us to pray this year as we sow seed that God would give us exactly what He wants us to do in this community, because it's got to be more than just opening your doors and having church. You know, you got to impact the community. You got to go outside the four walls. So that year, things began to happen. Doors began to open to help people with substance abuse issues and disorders. And here's the deal: that's where I come from. I mean, I struggled with all that myself. So, you know, finding the avenues and opportunities that came down the road were just natural to me. And our church got behind us and rallied. And so, 8 Oaks is a 501c3 nonprofit. Licensed with the State Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse and accredited through Joint Commission as a substance abuse and mental health provider here in the state of Tennessee. We're a faith-based program.
Not only your faith-based program, but you have the same credentials as even Betty Ford does.
Yes, we do, and Vanderbilt Hospital, St. Thomas Hospital,
Yes.
the same accreditation company.
Cumberland Heights.
That's right. We went through their program, but the difference in us, and it's very, very powerful, I believe, is that spiritual health and mental health go hand in hand. As a matter of fact, before the whole psychiatric practice even started, before Freud ever started talking about his theories and things of that nature, the greatest and most powerful mental health book that's changed the minds and hearts of people for generations has been the Word of God.
Amen.
So we teach the Word of God unapologetically, and if someone doesn't want that kind of treatment, that's fine.
Yep.
We'll refer them to a secular program. There's plenty of them out there.
Absolutely.
And I'm thankful for them, but the success rate of secular programs in long-term recovery compared to faith-based programs is not even close.
And when you say secular, you know, I would tend to believe years ago, until I started learning more about recovery, that secular meant they just didn't teach anything. They didn't talk about anything spiritual. That's not true. When you say secular, we're talking all kinds of
No, they promote
pagan things,
Yeah, right.
Buddhism. It's extreme opposite of Christianity. It's not secular. It's anti-Christian.
Well, it opens the door to other false religions, in
Absolutely.
my opinion. So, and look, and I'm not going to bash on them terribly, because the truth is they use the 12-step big book, and there's a lot of people that have found freedom through AA and NA.
Sure they have.
But originally, the big book was written based solely on the principles of the book of James in the Bible. At one point, they took the biblical references out to make it more palatable for people of other religions and beliefs.
That's a
because-
shame.
Yeah, it began to be used in inner cities. This is during the 60s and during the major drug
Well, you
era.
mean
So-
right when we took God out of school in '63?
Right, same
Sure.
time we took it out of recovery too.
Yep.
We took it out of
Yes.
recovery. So the average 30-day treatment program in America today, that the statistical analysis is that it has about a 6% success rate, that if you go through their treatment program that you'll never go back to addiction.
6%.
6%. That's 30 days secular. But here's what it is you got to find a God of your own choosing, a higher
Right.
power of your own choosing. Well, dude, that can be anything. It could be a tree in the front yard. It can
Right.
be, it can be your ancestors. It can
Sure.
be a Hindu god. It can be Buddha. It can be Muhammad. It can be anybody. We just straight up say, listen, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He changed the world.
That's right.
And the whole world has been turned upside down with the gospel.
That's right.
And created the world
Yeah,
too.
and we're not ashamed to tell
No.
people about Jesus. And if they, I think we may have had one or two applicants that didn't want to come to a faith-based program.
Well, I mean, my hat's off to you as a pastor. You're involved in politics, okay?
Yes.
That seems to be in a lot of people's belief system. That's taboo, and they're just wrong. Okay,
But they're uneducated on the historical
Absolutely.
facts in American history.
absolutely. This country was founded in church houses.
Not only was it founded in church houses, people forget that the shot heard around the world was shot by a pastor that led his congregation to battle.
We
right.
we went into Murray County with their public library and the issues that they were doing.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
we went into that. We were on
Yes.
CNN. We got trash talked every which way, 6 ways from Sunday.
It's okay. That's all they do.
But here's the thing. There were no pastors in that room.
Nope.
There were no that I know of. If they were there, I don't know them, that
Right.
stood up with us. We went into another county because if we don't go there, we're going to have it here. And it actually was successful.
Nah, we
won.
work. The public libraries underneath the county government as long as we got.
Oh,
our
well,
leadership in place.
We agree with that, but what we're saying is it's okay for us to go somewhere else and push back, and we're thankful for the Lawrence County Library.
You
I'm
did
not
it to
saying
keep
that.
it. You did it to keep it out of
You
here.
keep it out here,
yeah.
and Andy Oogles is very conservative, and he was over, still over the county at that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's only, a lot of times, things slip through the cracks that people don't know about.
Well,
as
I
well.
wish the churches of Lawrence County, and I've been saying it, I wish the Republican Party, our meetings would be the place where Christians can come to meet.
Yes.
And we say it, I'm unapologetic on it. We pray in Jesus' name, and we're not going to apologize for that. We believe we're faith-based. We are a political party that's faith-based. That's what we are here in this county, and I would love to see our pastors, I would love to see church members come to this. Let's work together. I'm seeing a unity come together in this county. It's actually, if you want to ask me about my vision, Lawrence knows I'm strategic all the way. And my vision on this is there's a lot of people we can agree on 99% of the things, but they pull that one thing out that they disagree on and let it divide them.
Yeah.
If we were to take a list of 10 items or 20, we could probably list 20 items that would be major political issues in
That
this
we all are
country
gonna agree on.
That we all would agree. Let's go get those 20 items done.
Yeah.
Forget
Yeah.
the one or two things that we can't agree on. Let's go get the one. If we could lay out 5 items that were major, just 5 items in this
Yeah.
county, and say, let's go after these 5 different things, these 5 topics, and
we
can
couldn't be
agree on it.
touched. We couldn't be touched.
We will turn this state on its heels.
That's right.
And that's our ultimate goal. But I'm going to tell you what you're doing for you to be county executive and also be a pastor. I'm calling it out. If somebody's listening to this, I don't care. Take this video and forward it to your pastor. And if it makes them mad, they need to get on their knees and pray about it.
Yeah.
Because Jesus Christ was involved in politics. He
That's
faced
right.
kings. He faced rulers. He spoke to them. He called them out by name. He called them a fox, you dirty liar. I mean, he told them what they were.
He even told them that their father was the devil.
But you know what he also did? He also called out the church leaders. And I want to say this to the church leaders. I'm not mad at you. It's time to come together. It's time to turn this thing. And if you're afraid you're going to lose some people out of your church, maybe you need a little purging going on anyways. We've
Right.
got things that we've got to do. We've got to make a stand. You being a Christian, you being a pastor, I don't think it's coincidence. I'm not a person that believes in coincidences. I believe it's to help turn this county to the direction that we need to turn to. And I appreciate that. And you being out in 8 Oaks and the things you've done, that's tough because it meshes in with the politics.
It messes in, yeah, and you know what? That brings it to a point there. What messes into the politics of it. You've took some heat about being not only the county executive, not only being a pastor of a very large church, but also with 8 Oaks and getting money. I have seen where people are mad because you guys could have gotten grant money to help, and you chose not to take the money.
Yeah, well, Lawrence, it's kind of like First of all, you talked about Facebook warriors, social media warriors.
Right.
I call them keyboard cowards, folks that'll get on there and talk a bunch of trash and not come to my office or get an appointment with me and try to sit down. Hey, look, I'll break bread with you. I'll buy you lunch if you got an issue with me and let's talk it over, And, man, I'm going to buy a lot of lunches here.
That just reminds me, I got an issue with you later.
But the truth is, Jesus, what was one of the final things he said hanging on the cross was, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do.
Right.
And a lot of times, that's the way I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. Inside I'm like, you're just ignorant to the facts. You don't understand what we're really doing. You don't understand my intentions and my heart. And so,
right.
But people are so quick to judge, and so I understand that. Man, that's human nature, right?
It is.
But we have taken some heat over it. But here's the deal, Lawrence. Like, there was a big, huge opioid settlement that from Johnson & Johnson and a couple other companies in every county in Tennessee and all over the country. The states that got in the fight are going to get money for the next 20 years from these settlements, right? So, and that money is specifically supposed to be earmarked to go toward recovery efforts in that community or awareness or prevention, and those kind of things. And so, yes, at Eight Oaks, it's a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit. I'm not on the board. I made sure I removed myself from the board when I got involved politically here in the county. I'm just an advisor to the board at their liberty. Like, if they want my opinion.
Right.
But I am the founder, yes, and built the program, and with the help of a lot of other people, by the way. It's not just me. But,
I know, but
yeah. So anyway, but you know what? I said.
Do we have other programs here in Lawrence County that's doing what you're doing? I'm going to answer that. No.
They're not doing. There's not many programs that do what we do with the clinical accredited license with the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse level of accreditation that we have. There's just not many of those, even in the state for that matter, and certainly not many that are faith-based. We only know of one other program that does clinical and faith-based treatment at the same time.
Right,
so.
but I'm talking about here in Lawrence County.
No, there's nothing like what we do here. There are some sober living houses that are, I think, about to open up here, or maybe just did, or something like that. But that's a little different. It's kind of a work program. It's more of a Christian discipleship program. They don't have like licensed clinicians and things like that help with the mental health side of things. But no, we're very, very, very professionally ran organization.
I know. I took a tour a couple of weeks ago. And I got to see it. And I'll be honest with you, David, I was never interested really in this. But I've heard, some people in the community talking about it. And, they've talked with me about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go look at this. I know you. And there were some funny things that were said, kind of tongue-in-cheek and jokes and everything.
I'm sure I wasn't in the van, so I'm sure y'all had
no,
trash.
Oh, no. It had nothing to do. It was before. It was actually before.
All right.
And I told him, I said, well, you know what? I said, I know David a little bit, and I know Jared Menz. I said, I don't believe that with David Morgan. I said, now, Jared, I don't put anything past Jared.
The
jury's still out. But I said, not David.
Blah, blah, blah.
But no, in all seriousness.
We love you, Jared.
Yeah, he's listening.
In all seriousness, though, it hurts me in my soul to think that you will not take money or have tried to not have the money come to Eight Oaks that's going to keep people off the street. It's not like you're going all over the world trying to get people to come here. You're concentrating in our backyard with people. Mm-hmm. So you're getting people off the street. You're getting them off drugs. They're being supervised. If they didn't have that, then they would be on the streets doing drugs and maybe in some of our houses, and things. And I just, I've never really talked with you about this, but I will tell you as a citizen, I would not want to see Lawrence County lose out on money that could go to a non-faith-based place. Or if you don't take it, then, Davidson County gets the extra money or Shelby County gets the money and not us. Right. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a way, I would think, so people won't be upset and I guess they think you're making money at it. But I mean, there are times that you guys are getting, and I heard this. There's times that you're getting food, and Eight Oaks is not even able to pay the food bill that is being paid by somebody else.
I'm thankful for United Church. I'm thankful for Stetter's Restaurant. I'm thankful for Jared Men's and other people and other donors that we have in our community. And that pool's not very big, by the way. It's a small pool of people. But yeah, there's plenty of times where it's been lean. We've been open 16 months, United Church, just to straight up tell you, United Church has paid the payroll of Eight Oaks for about 12 of those 16 months, and we pitch in occasionally here and there when there's some more money needed, from the church. And so I'm so thankful to have a board and a church family that's all about helping people get free from drug addiction and all that. But here's the thing, Lawrence, it's just not a glamorous thing, for a lot of people. The people aren't lining up to donate money to help with drug rehab.
Hey, listen, I get it.
There's so many other things people love to give their money to.
Right.
And we've got, but here's what I believe in Lawrence County, and this is what I've always seen. We're a relatively young nonprofit, so Lawrence County always steps up and takes care of its own. We do. And we have a whole list of nonprofits that the county even contributes to. There's a lot of counties that won't even give a dime to the nonprofits in the county. Murray County was like that for quite some time.
You give to the community council, the community centers.
Various. Just pretty much. So, you were speaking like Eight Oaks could petition the county commission to say, hey, could we get on your list of nonprofits and get the same dole or whatever. Right. And it's not a ton of money. Also, for me, it's not right now at this point. It's just not. We're going to trust God to take care of us on that, Eight Oaks, and in our business model. And it would be great someday, maybe when I'm not in that seat in the county, that our county would step up and pick up Eight Oaks, because literally it's saving money in our jail. It's saving money across the board in our county if we can get people set free from drug addiction, man. Children's services and family services. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
all the way around. If we can get dads, and we're a men's program. if we can get a man introduced to Jesus and get his life changed, man, and take
care of his children, and not the state. It's a game, and you know what? It's what God says, and I'm here with two pastors right now, so you'll know the verse I'm talking about. But God says that the sins of the father goes down to 3 generations.
The third and the fourth generation.
The third and the fourth generation, and that's being able to stop that.
Yep.
Right
exactly
there,
right.
Cold turkey. Mm-hmm. You guys are stopping it, and that's why I almost feel guilty that I hadn't went out and got information on it. And really the only reason I did is because knowing you, knowing Jared like I do, I wanted to kind of put some of this stuff that's being said about Eight Oaks to rest.
Yeah. Well, Jared, I just want to say this about Men's, and I know he got a bad rep in some of those dealings over the campaign and all that. And the first day I ever met Jared Men's, he told me, I'm retired from healthcare. He'd been in mental health care with substance abuse for 20 years.
Right.
But I began to share my vision with him and what God had called me to do, and he said, man, he couldn't hardly sleep all weekend. He texted me on Monday morning and said, would you come to my office tomorrow and let's talk? And first thing he said was like, preacher! I don't think you remember my name. Jared's not good with names if you've been around him very much. But he's like, preacher! He said, last thing I wanted to do when I moved to Lawrence County was to get back in the healthcare business. He said, but if I can do it faith-based with somebody like you.
Yeah.
He said the faith-based programs were always kicking our tail numbers-wise from the secular programs as far as success rate goes. He says, I just feel like I'm supposed to help you make this happen, create this program and help it. And he has done that, man. The business development side, he brought in expertise and knowledge, and even with his family that are here, that Mike Stetter's our executive director. It's a treasure trove of information and knowledge that that God just sent.
That gave us, yes.
He just sent it to me.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. And Jared says, he says, nobody's ever said God's put me in their life, not even my wife, I said, well, I'll give you that kind of credit, man. I'll give you that kind of credit.
Well, hey, again, it's great that things like this are in our community, and we need to really pull together. I think a lot of times I'm guilty. Okay, I'm gonna raise my hand, so I'm not pointing my
I'm
finger.
right here
I'm
with
guilty
you.
at riding down the road and I see a problem. It could be homeless, it could be whatever, and I see that the addiction. You can drive down the street and see when someone's addicted. I mean, it doesn't take a degree to go say, okay, now once you get into the clinical side of it and you start learning the psychology behind it, I get it. But I would ride down the street and I would look at it and I would say, somebody ought to go do something about that. Someone ought to. Why won't the government do something about that? Why won't people get involved? Why won't churches get involved? And you see a problem, and it's time in Lawrence County. And this is one thing I'm going to just keep saying. Let's quit asking somebody else to do something.
Well, and that's been my whole point.
That's right.
David is our county executive, but his church, himself, and some of the other leaders in this community, they have took it upon themselves, and I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it. So now I'm a believer.
It's beautiful out there, isn't it? Too. You saw the farm.
I've been out there a couple of times. We got some bees that were harassing.
Yeah, my bees.
And
I tried to be a beekeeper for a little while, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Those were mean bees, though. Those were mean.
Did I get mean bees? Okay,
yeah,
all right,
those
they were
were
Wayne
mean.
County bees.
I think he had a hornet nest in Lawrence. He said, "Come get these bees." Just
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Jared Benz is going, I'm going to give you my hornet's nest, not the bees.
Well, Lawrence has always been good at stirring up the hornet's nest. So,
That is true, Lawrence. I mean, I would have to say that's true, yeah.
But I'm right, though, when I do it. I mean, I stand on my principle.
Hey, listen,
But
I
it
think
is
we have to
beautiful out
stir
there.
stuff up.
It is.
I think we have to. I think we have, like you said, Brandon, we can't just ride down the road and ignore these.
no, we can't.
It's God's people are the ones supposed to be taking care of all this. What's happened in America, and you go back to the church leadership in America and our voice being quiet and silent.
Yep.
That started in the progressive era in the early 1900s, and it was a calculated move. The nonprofit status that was given to churches for tax deductible after the temporary levy after World War I, all these things having temporary income tax.
Yeah,
levy.
that never happens. That's the reason I'm
That was
fighting
never
it.
intended to be temporary. But anyways, so all that happened, churches got nonprofit status. All of a sudden now there's a fear in the church that your nonprofit status will be taken from you if you address issues. But the truth is, in American history, if you look at American history, from the signers of the Declaration of Independence, I mean, every single one of them were Christians. Every single one of them were
right.
believers in Jesus Christ. Several of them were sons of clergymen. 2 of them were licensed clergymen.
Right.
Most every one of them had gone to Ivy League schools, which, by the way, all started out as seminaries.
As seminaries,
Sure did.
that's
right.
correct.
And so all these guys that wrote the Declaration, and anyway, it was normal in American history up until the middle part of the 20th century to actually preach election sermons.
It was actually Johnson in 1965 is when that
began to
happened.
shut it down.
Johnson is the one that started the 501c3.
Johnson started that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. When the progressive era during the Woodrow Wilson era, the whole talk of the progressive started. That's when Margaret Sanger started becoming a big voice, and
Planned Parenthood.
Planned Parenthood.
Yep.
The abortion clinics got put in the inner cities intentionally,
Absolutely.
to eradicate
One of the
black
biggest
population.
racists of all
Absolute.
time was
Absolute.
Margaret
Oh,
Sanger.
outspoken racist, but
Yes.
nobody wants to talk about
Spoke
that.
at Ku Klux Klan meetings
Yes,
herself.
yes,
There's
yes,
pictures
yes,
online
yes.
if you don't believe it.
Most
Yes.
definitely. LBJ, he was very calculated in his era to not only offer churches nonprofit status, which now made us accountable to the government for what we said, and put a fear that the power of the purse now is in the hand of the government, not in God, where it could be taken away from us.
Right.
But LBJ, all the civil right, all the legislation he did during his time
Yep.
about making it where mothers could basically profit from having babies from multiple fathers and not
Yeah.
having a man
Oh,
in
yeah,
the home.
yeah.
As long as there wasn't a man in the home, a breadwinner in the home,
Right.
a man, then she could get all kind of free stuff from the government. All that started in his time.
That's
I mean,
correct.
that was all calculated, man.
Yes.
Every single bit of that was calculated. And people don't want to give LBJ the credit for being that smart, but if it wasn't LBJ himself, then there
It
was
wasn't
people
that he was
around
that
him.
smart. He was that evil.
Yeah,
I'm just
and
gonna
here's the
say it.
thing. That's just bottom line is at the end of the
Right.
day, leadership, we have to keep our heart aligned with God. We have to humble ourselves because the devil's trying to get in our head just as much as God's trying to speak to us and guide us.
And you know what? That's a very good point, David. And I think that's what a lot of us do. A lot of us go around looking at the worst case. What's the worst of people instead of trying to look at what's the best of people, and then let them prove you wrong.
Yeah. Well,
That's
Jesus,
the fallen nature of man.
It is
It's
the fallen nature of man.
So that being said, I want to extend an invitation. If you're a pastor, preacher, Bible teacher, if you just do a Bible study in your home, we want you to come out and be a part of what we're doing at the Republican Party. If you're a non-believer, you're still welcome to come to the
Absolutely.
Republican Party. It's
Absolutely.
not. This is not a club. It's not a church. It is an assembly of neighbors and friends that want to come together and actually make a difference. In the Lawrence County Republican Party, we're not just a political group. We're actually having an impact in politics, and we're getting out there. We're making contact. And I'm going to segue into our next week. Okay, so on the 14th or on the 15th, August the 15th, we have a meeting at 6 p.m. in the courthouse. We want everyone to come out. If you're just interested to learn more about the special session, if you're considering going up there to the state capitol, come out. We're going to be talking about that, laying out some plans that we have. Then on August the 16th, 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. back here on the radio, we're going to have the Lawrence County Republican Party radio show, and we believe that we're going to be able to get Paige Wally on. He called me today. He wants to actually call in, so he's going to be busy. But I did talk to him today. He called me, and he wanted me to reiterate he is 100% against red flag laws. Okay, he's talking about some legislation that he's going to put forward, and I think he's going to be talking about that on the radio. So that's still in the works because this is all hot off the press stuff. It's official now, so things are rolling. So we look
all
forward to
this
having
stuff has
Paige Wally
happened
on.
within the last 24 hours.
Yeah, so this is fast. So,
Yes.
I mean, here we are, this little radio show. We're going to have a state senator calling in. He called me today. He wants to be a part of this. These are good things. So I want people to, right now, if you've liked this video, even if you don't like the video, click the like button. So we want people to like it. But click the
Or
like
we'll
button.
send Jared Menz to come see you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Constable of the world.
That's right.
He's got a huge badge.
My man, Jared, we love you.
So I want you to know that we want people to be involved, and we appreciate you, David. I mean, I really appreciate you. I mean it.
Thank you. I appreciate
Even we haven't always agreed on every little thing.
We won't.
But it's petty little stuff compared to the big things that we see going on in our community that we need to be working on, things in our state that we need to be working on, and it's happening. I'm seeing this come together.
I do,
and
too.
I want people to come be a part of the unity. And I told Lawrence, we talked just before the show, and I said, you know what? I hope we can create with the Lawrence County Republican Party. Let's give people something they can run to, not run from. We don't want to drive you away from. We want to give you something to come be a part of, to see it having an impact. And we are having an impact. Believe it or not, we are, and I see it already, and everyone else is going to see it.
Well, I tell you, the key thing, and like we said, it's the fastest hour. We got 3 minutes left. I have a couple of questions for you.
All right, let's go. Lightning round.
Yes, lightning round here. What are some of the things that has surprised you about being the county executive?
Some of the things that surprised me. Well, I think, man, that's a tough question. You gave me a heads up on this question on my drive over here, and I guess the number one thing for me is I'm surprised after 2 years of praying, basically telling God, no, I'm not the guy, for this job. And finally giving in to what I felt like God was calling me to do. And then, of course, Lawrence County had to vote for me. But to me, the most surprised thing I have been surprised personally is how much I love doing this. It's unbelievable. I'm serious. And people, when I tell people that, they're like, really? And I've said, dude, yes, because you get to, every single day, I get to help make decisions for Lawrence County citizens that will improve their lives, their quality of life, help people get out of the trenches, man, help people get a leg up, help people keep their own money, Right. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, get to pilot the ship, if you will. Of course, 18 great commissioners. People that help me, even some that I disagree with on things. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they all have a heart for Lawrence County. It's fun to be a part of this right now.
I agree with that.
I agree. And I'm going to tell you something. Last question here. What have you accomplished so far that you feel has helped Lawrence County the most?
Man, I've got a whole list of things here, but I will. You said lightning round, right? So
Right.
Let me go through them. So, big deal. A big deal for me is no tax increases and raises for all of our first responders. We are creating with County Fire. We're really stepping some stuff up there for them too. We just announced the biggest new industry announcement Lawrence County's seen in decades, and so that's happening here in Lawrence County. It's all happening in this time. And you know, we've hired a new budget director. There's a lot of things changed there at our budget department, and I'm very happy with her and what she's doing. A lot of good stuff happening in our penal system, the jails, and with training inmates. And inmates in our jail today through ADS can get welding certificates and actually have a good job when
That's
they
awesome.
get out. You know, there's a lot of things like that you get to be a part of. So, yeah, man, just excited about the times. A lot of good things happen in Lawrence County, and I'm just blessed and thankful to be a part of it.
Send us out, Brandon. We got like 20 seconds.
Hey, listen, David, thank you for being here. Lawrence, I want to tell you thank you for all you do. You do a lot behind the scenes. It's awesome. No one's going to thank you enough for everything that goes on. I'm just honored to be a part of it. Thank you to Lawrence County, the Republican Party, for putting this show together. This is a show where we don't just talk about politics. We are politics.
And we do it. And please show up. Please show up on the 15th.
This is WDXE, W287AA, and W237FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect.